Hey, I'm excited to share with you in this video the 10 things that you need to know before you buy a house. A lot of them you can check and look at, and most of them are free. You can check and look at before you even contract on the house. So when you're going to look for a house, let's just jump in. A lot of the stuff you have to get from the actual homeowner and you can't see. For example, starting with number one is flood. You need to make sure, has the house flooded or not? And if it has, are you okay with it? If it did flood, was it repaired correctly? Was it straightened out? Was it remediated for mold? Because you have to understand, whenever a house floods, if it's literally 70 degrees or warmer, 70 degrees or warmer, mold will set in. It will set in within 24 hours. So it's not so much the house itself flooding, it's was it put back and repaired properly. If it's professionally remediated and done right, and they can show documentation of a lot of that stuff, then if you're cool with it, then you just have to know, okay, it flooded. Has it ever flooded before? And what's the flood zone? So there's flood zone A, B, C, and you might want to write this stuff down. There's flood zones A, B, C, and X. All of those are flood zones. They are flood zones. I live on the Gulf Coast, and flood zones are everywhere, pretty much if you're around any sort of water. There's a lot of water down here, right? However, if you're in flood zone C or flood zone X, your insurance policy typically runs less than $1,000, typically between $700 and $800, $1,000, right? I tell folks I wouldn't live in southern Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Panhandle. I wouldn't without, it's worth the $800 to me. I don't care if the house is never flooded. Just my advice, 30 years in this business. The next one is fire. Has the home ever caught fire? If it was caught on fire, was it replaced properly? You see, one thing it's for certain that every house for over 30 years now, when listed for sale, has to fill out a property condition disclosure form. And that disclosure form either has to show that the seller's exempt. So for example, that would be a brand new home because you're getting a warranty. Another example of that would be if a person has never lived in that property and they inherit it from their parents, then they can basically say, I don't know if there's anything wrong with the property or not. Regardless, even if someone's lived in the home, it's been their personal residence. This stands for even investors that own rental property and they've never lived in the property. They still have to fill out and complete that property disclosure. So it tells you water, sewer, all this, but there's also a question on there, does the land hold water? Has the land flooded? Does it hold water? So you got to look for signs of that. You got to ask those questions. Oftentimes, people won't tell you until you ask. So it's like, oh, I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you, right? And if you've experienced anything like this out there, please chime in, give us your story so other people can see and know and understand there is things out there that happen. So number two was fire. So if a house is caught fire, it can be put back properly. The bad news is one of the first things they do when a house catches fire is what? They shut off the utilities. They shut off the electricity. So now you have no electricity in the property. If it's over 70 degrees, guess what's going to happen? You guessed it. What they put the fire out with? Lots of water. What happens? Mold. So not only do you have all this water, but was it put back properly? Because that water gets behind the sheetrocks, it gets behind the soffits, it gets everywhere. So you have to make sure the house was done and completed properly. Number three is insurance claims. So a lot of houses have a lot of insurance claims on them, and it's hard to actually get an insurance policy on them. Now, how do you know if there's been claims on a house or not? You simply call your insurance agent that has your automobile insurance. Most of them will bundle all of that, which saves you a lot of money on your insurance. So if a house has had a lot of claims, insurance agents can see that and kind of, let you know, hey, this house had a lot of claims. I don't know why. I don't know if it was for real, like it flooded, it had a fire, had a tree fall on it. So that's what I mean. You can actually have a tree fall on a house and it can pretty much just absolutely obliterate the home, one section of it anyway. Or we've all seen on the news where vehicles have been driven through people's houses and was it put back properly? It's just a matter of knowing this up front. So it gives you a little peace of mind. So you lay your head on the pillow that night, gives you a little peace of mind knowing, okay, I can sleep, I did all of my due diligence. The other one is having your HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, checked out. It may work, but even though it works, you need to make sure it's working properly. A good home inspector will inspect the property for you. And these things are done, so like for example, the fire, the flood, you can figure that out and find that out. Tree fall on it, insurance claims, those three you can pretty much find out without even making an offer on the house. The next one, the HVAC, no one's going to let you walk into your property, their property, do an inspection. They're going to be like, oh, if you're serious about buying it, make me an offer, let's negotiate numbers, and then we make all that contingent. So the next one, and I talked on, is HVAC. So even though it's cooling, it's not a bad idea to have it serviced by an HVAC. Now, so many times buyers say, I almost bought that house right there. It's a cute little house. We're in Old Mandeville, Louisiana. Sorry, seen a squirrel. Really did see a squirrel too. So when you look at the HVAC, it can be working properly when you look at the house and then not working properly. You can do a home inspection. A home inspection is going to say, hey, it's working, yeah, it's working fine, it's working not. You can also have it serviced. Now, what I was saying is so many buyers will ask the seller to have it serviced. Sometimes the sellers agree to it, sometimes they're not. But you need to make sure that they get a reputable service technician out there to service it. It typically runs anywhere from $200 to $400, depends on who you call, what county and state you live in. LA, California, they may be a little higher. They may be a little higher in Seattle, Washington. It all varies. So that's why I'm really like, when it comes to prices, it all varies. Google, ChatGPT, Claude, all that stuff, they got your answers, right? The next one is windows. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is number 4. So insurance claims, nope, this is number 5, windows. So windows, you want to check windows. Older houses have single glass pane windows. People say single pane. Single pane means a single pane of glass. You also want to do a couple of things. If it's a single pane of glass, that's cool, with the windows open. So oftentimes you buy an older house, like the ones I'm riding around, that one's being in the process of being lifted. Literally a lot of these houses, because we're literally just a few blocks from Lake Pontchartrain that way. So when you look at the windows of a house, you got to make sure that you can open those windows. Oftentimes older houses, the windows are painted shut. You also need to look at if it's a newer house. And what I mean by newer, like if it's built after really the late 70s, early 80s. Now that's newer, don't get me wrong, don't beat me up. That's newer compared to houses, say like, you know, one that has built 100 years ago. They have double panes, and those double panes have a seal and a gasket and a gas. So oftentimes people miss looking at those windows and they horribilize it. And here's what I mean by that. And I don't mean to sound negative, but it's one of those things where you don't know until you know, right? So you look around the house, you look at the windows, it's like, wow, I can't see out of the window. It looks like it's got white, frosty, what is that? It's where the seal has broken between those two panes of glass, and then moisture, and then heat, and then cold, and next thing you know, it just completely fogs up. They call it a fog window. Here's what's so important to know. You don't have to replace that entire window. You can just replace the section. So we got a top section and a bottom section. Depends on where you live. Where I'm at, it's running about $150 a section. So you don't have to really go in, rip out the whole window casing, put an all new window in, which typically runs you anywhere from $300 to $500. You can pay $150 if you're a seller or a buyer. Now keep in mind, when you look at windows and you see those sort of things, windows raising up, not, ask the seller to fix it. Ask the seller. They can say no, but you also don't have to buy their house. You get your deposit back in most states. Every state varies. Always check your state when it comes to deposit. You can get the windows fixed. The seller can fix your windows. The next one is roof. It's not enough just to look at the roof. You need to look for roof leaks. You need to get in the attic. You can do this while you're looking at the house yourself. I tell people, anytime you're looking at a house, it's a good idea just take a flashlight and a tape measure. You're probably going to need those two things. Take pictures with your camera. You can get in the attic. You're going to look at your soffits. You're going to look at your vents. You're going to look at absolutely everything on the property, especially plumbing vents, because that's where we'll find that most of the time you'll have a leak. And if it's a leak, is it repaired properly? If it's repaired properly, you're good to go. But you also got to look at the life of the roof. All these roofs say they're 30-year roofs, and you got an insurance company saying, no, I'm not going to write you an insurance policy on the roof if it's built, if it was put on 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Even though the roof is supposedly a 30-year roof when you buy a new house, or 30 years when you go buy these new shingles at Owens Corning, great company. You have to also look at what's the life of the roof, and you get that through a roofing contractor, you get that through an inspector, and you just kind of know, okay, that's a roof, here's what we're going to have to deal with. The next is rotted wood, and you can learn and see that when you're in the attic of the house. So when you're in the attic, or you're at the soffits, the big culprit can be gutters. So gutters can get clogged, and it's not enough to just clean the gutter. So oftentimes people say, I still want to buy the house, but the gutters are clogged. Well, what do you think the seller will unclog the gutter? Yeah, I'm sure they will, but here's what you have to notice. When you watch these videos, take these notes. Been doing this for 30 years. I've seen just about everything. So when your home inspector shows up, if you've seen anything of any concern, mention that to the home inspector. They're human just like anybody, right? And they inspect thousands of houses, the good ones do. And unfortunately, things oftentimes get missed. So if there's like a clogged gutter, it's not enough just to have them clean the gutter out. Ask him if he can feel and look and behind where the gutter was clogged to make sure there's no rotted fascia board. A lot of people don't understand, like, it's hardy board, which is made of like a concrete substance. And then from hardy board made from a concrete substance, then you have vinyl siding. But behind the vinyl siding, you physically have plywood or 1x4s, 1x6s. It's all wood. You have to understand, behind everything is wood. If it's a vinyl soffit, if it's a gutter, it's wood. It's all covered. So what happens is you want to make sure water hasn't got to that wood and been sitting there over the years. So another way to look is front doors, back doors, and around windows. So you look at the bottom of the window sill, especially if it's a wood window sill. You want to check those areas around the bottom of the windows, because when it rains and it just kind of settles, you make sure it has to be sealed properly. And if it's not, especially in areas where the sun hits a lot of the house, because the sun will break down paint, it'll break down caulk, it'll break down those materials. So now you got the windows, we talked about the roof, we talked about wood rot, which can also be the bottom and the base of doorways. When you open a front door, back door, garage door, any kind of doors like that, you're going to look for around the bottom of the door casing. Now, oftentimes they call it brick mold. It goes all the way around the back door. It's just a wood trim, right? That wood trim can rot, and typically it'll rot anywhere from 6 to 10 inches up, right? A good rule of thumb is this: you don't have to replace the whole brick mold. I mean, you can, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can also replace it if you want to, or have the seller to do it for you with just a piece of wood itself, and then sand it in and blend it. Because you have to understand, that brick mold does no structural integrity per se. It's literally just a trim piece to make your door look nice. Unfortunately, it's wood, and it can rot. So the next one, which is really big because it has to do with moisture, water, cool areas, and that's bugs. That's wood destroying insects, termites. You want the house inspected for termites. So when you buy a house, you want to make sure that house is inspected for termites. I can't emphasize enough. You have to understand, even if you do an FHA loan, if you do a USDA loan, if you do a VA loan, conventional loan, appraisers are not inspecting houses. They're looking at the house to determine the value of the home, to make sure they're not over-lending money to buy the house, and they want to make sure that you're not overspending to buy the house. That's like Pontchartrain, by the way. If anybody's ever wondered, if you look at that bridge on my top right here, that's the longest bridge arguably in the world. It's 26 straight miles. You get in the middle, you can't see nothing but water. So anyway, what was I saying? Termites, yes. So termites love moisture, they love moisture area. You got wood destroying insect reports that you need to get, and the termite company will come out and do that. Now, here's what's really important to hang on to. The house does not have to have a termite contract. A termite contract says that I'm paying somebody anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a year, depending on the size of the house. It could be much more, to come out, look at my property pretty much on a monthly basis, make sure there's no termites. They treat it with a chemical solution that goes all the way around the property. They put these little things in, and it keeps termites from being around the house. Should you have termites, they cover it. That's a termite contract. A house does not have to be on a termite contract for you to sell it, nor does it have to be on a contract for you to buy it. Now, if you're going to buy a house, you want to make sure that the termite company comes out. But please know this: when they inspect the house for termites, and that person's still living in the house, and new construction is a little bit different, but that person's still living in the house, the termite guys, they can't get behind boxes, they can't get behind cabinets. There's places that they just can't get behind. So you just have to know that you want to have your inspector look at it as close as possible. You want to have your termite guy to come out and look at it and make sure there's no termites. There shouldn't be any termites. And if there's termites, then they just need to be treated. It's just that simple. The seller can do it, it can be treated, the termites are gone. But the big thing is there any termite damage? Because termites will actually eat the wood on the house. That's another thing. If there's termite damage, you can have the seller say, hey, pay to have it repaired. I still want your house, but I don't want these items. And listen, so much of this has happened to me personally. My first house I ever sold, it had termites. Literally, the house that I'm living in now, it had termites. Why? Because it had a little bit of a water leak. That's what you have to understand. If there's any kind of moisture, any kind of water leak, that's where those termites are going to go to. They sense that moisture. They know where it's at. They're going to go there, and they're going to eat that wood. Now, the other one, and there's two more. The other one is mold. You got to make sure there's no mold in the house. If you remotely smell anything that smells like a basement, it smells like dirt, it smells earthy, it smells like a beet taste. If you ever tasted a beet, it's like earth. You know what I'm saying? If you have any sense of that smell, then you need to have a mold test done. I'm gonna throw in another one here in just a second, and that's radon. You wanna have a radon test done. A lot of people, and if it's 4 or above, you're gonna have to have it treated. The seller can have it treated, but it's graded on a scale. In the United States, it's 4. So you wanna make sure that there's no radon in the house. It's a gas that actually comes from the earth, comes from rock. Some houses have it, whether they're basement homes or not, but a lot of homes have open basement homes where one section's open, one's not. I grew up in a house like that. You just never know when there's radon. And of course, mold. We talked about mold, but the big issue with mold is if you smell it, you remotely fear it, have it checked for mold. Mold inspectors can come in. They literally pull air quality samples out of each individual room. It will run you anywhere from $800 to thousands of dollars, depends on the size of the house, but a 3,000 square foot house will typically run you less than $1,000. They send those air samples off to a lab. They document where each sample came from, and then they can come back and tell you, yes, you have mold, no, you don't. Or not only do you have mold, this is the primary location that it's coming from, down to the location of the room, because they've documented where they've pulled all those air quality samples. So listen, I hope you like this video. I've been in the real estate business for 30 years. I bought, flipped, sold, helped thousands of people buy and sell their homes. And I'm a big believer in you learn it, you master it, and you teach it, and it's fun for me and gets me out of the office. I can jump on my golf cart and explain a little bit of what I've seen, learned, dealt with over the years. And if you like this video, you'll like this next one, I promise you. Give me a like and a thumbs up, and most importantly, share this video with somebody that you think would be helpful if they're remotely thinking about buying a house, whether it be their first house, second house, or if they're selling the house. There's some good tips in there too. Until next time, thank you for watching. May God bless you and your family.